Welcome to the, what is today, March 11th meeting of the Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee, and could we get a roll call?
Mr. Appel,
Here.
Dr. Armstrong, Mr. Birkin, Mr. Castile, Ms. Champagne, Dr. Clark, Mr. Harris, Mr. Hollis, not present, Ms. Holloway, Ms. Mellerine, Mr. Morris, Mr. Grabert. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The first order of business is recognition of community partners.
Your first item is 2.1, consideration of the recognition of community partners. The recommendation is to recognize.
Do we have a motion? Everybody makes a motion. Mr. Harris seconds. I'm going to walk down here to the microphone, y'all, so just a second. Can y'all hear me? Pull the microphone closer, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Good morning. My father taught me an old expression that I've always adhered to my whole life, and that is always give back the full measure of what you've received. And I've thought that was really pertinent. And today, we have a dear friend of mine who we were trying to figure out how long we've known each other, and it's something north of 40 years, who has been a model of that saying as long as I can ever remember. His name is Henry Shane. He's from New Orleans originally, but primarily Jefferson Parish. So let me read a little resume and add a couple of things that a friend of his gave me. Henry Shane, a New Orleans native, is a businessman, philanthropist, and avid collector of art and cars. A graduate of Tulane University, which I'll forgive him for because I want to tell us you. With a Master of Architecture degree, Shane, along with H.M. Tim Favreau, co-founded Favreau and Shane Company, which is in Jefferson Parish. With over 10,000 residential real estate units in Louisiana, Mr. Shane has a long history of generosity, contributing his time and resources to improve the economy of the region, and was one of the driving forces behind the creation of the Jefferson Parish Economic Development Commission, which I also served on. He has also been extremely active in numerous civic and charitable causes. The philanthropic and cultural contributions of he and his wife have had a major impact on the greater New Orleans region. Mr. Shane has been a recipient of many awards, including the Business Hall of Fame and 2002 Junior Achievement Award, the National Apartment Association Hall of Fame Award. His contributions to education have also been great, as he is a founding and active board member of Kenner Discovery Health Academy. Discovery schools strive to provide a rigorous learning environment where students achieve academically, develop intellectual curiosity, and practice environmental responsibility while exploring health and science topics. Now that's the mush that Mr. Shane sent me. But these are a few more things so that you'll understand his real contributions to education in Louisiana. Discovery Charter Schools, which we mentioned, was founded in 2013. It started with 420 students. This year, it's 3,300 students. And it's been a decade of either A or B academic performance. As the CEO of Discovery wrote, Henry is an idea man and a man of solutions. His commitment is longstanding and proactive, which is extremely important. We have so many people that love education, want to contribute to education, and then they quietly disappear. This is a guy who has stuck with it for as long as I can remember, those 40 years at least. So to me, that's a serious attribute. He was an early and big contributor to Jefferson Dollars for Scholars, which is a program that raises money for basically poor children to be able to go to college. A great program. He has been active with recruiting and working with the Jefferson Parish School Board and trying to get people on that board that are also committed to education for the long term. He contributed to the construction of a St. Elizabeth school. He contributed over $1 million to the ACE and AGII, I'm not sure what these are, scholarship programs. I think these are those business scholarships. Yeah, business contribution. The state scholarships. So he was a big contributor to that. He contributed $250,000 to a scholarship program at De La Salle High School, which was his alma mater. He established, and that program has gone forward to this day. He has donated several $1 million to the Tulane School of Architecture, where he was a student as a young man. I can't say enough about a guy who puts his money where his mouth is and sticks with it. There's nothing better in this world than someone with the passion and the commitment to children and to the improvement of the state of Louisiana and, in our case, the New Orleans region, than a guy like Henry Shane. And so my father's expression is extraordinarily appropriate today. He's a man who has given back a full measure plus some of what was given to him, and I think we all owe Henry a huge debt of gratitude. I know everybody in my area knows him well. If you ever drive down Veterans Boulevard or areas in Kenner, you're going to see a lot of these big, fancy artworks in the neutral ground. That's all him. He did that to help beautify our parish. There aren't many people like that, and so it's my honor to introduce Henry to you, and hope you're going to say a few words. As many as you want. 2, 3 is fine. Say a few words.
All right, I'll say a few words. Listen, I understand the hard work that has to get done. You know, so many of us have to do things for free and give a lot of our time and our efforts. And I thank you, all of you
you guys move up, I just want to offer one comment. Mr. Shane is also good at recruiting educators to Jefferson Parish. But beyond that, I'll tell you one very concrete story that I feel like will tell you a little about this man. So while I served as superintendent in Jefferson Parish, we were struggling to have enough teachers come into the system or be retained in the system. And, you know, a great deal of that is working conditions, but pay also matters. So we crafted a pay proposal for the public that included merit pay, you know, paying people in hard to staff areas, hard to find content areas, and it also lifted the base pay of every teacher. And it was a property tax job. And I don't know of anyone that was more impacted in their pocketbook than this man right here. But instead of working against us, he did everything he could to help us at a significant personal cost to him in his pocketbook to make sure that Jefferson Parish could staff its schools. And the next year, we went from needing roughly 150 teachers to start the school year to 12. And I think that is so much a part of your legacy of ensuring that kids have access to a good teacher and a good school. So I just want to say thank you.
Come on down. These are the guys that made the magic happen.
We have public comment from Ms. Linda Smith and Dr. Patty Glazier.
So most of you know I don't pass up an opportunity to come to this table and speak to you all. And today it's obviously in support of what you're doing. Henry, as you know, is the founder and visionary of Discovery Schools. And when he's in, he is 150% in for decades. Generous with his personal wealth only begins to tell the story. We're talking about bond procurement, land acquisition, support from local leaders, contact with elected officials, and a plethora of creative ideas. If he's in the room, he is solution-oriented and he's positive. Henry told me in the beginning he wanted to give opportunities to students who may not have opportunities. He wanted to home grow healthcare professionals, and he wanted to raise the level of education locally and raise positive healthcare outcomes over time. So here's my best example, as Dr. Brumley had an example. Our 2024 valedictorian is he's a person of color, and he's a son of a single mother who moved to Kenner specifically for a better education. She chose Kenner Discovery for her son and enrolled him in 2nd grade. Last year, he graduated as our valedictorian, and he's currently studying at Yale on a complete scholarship. That's the opportunities that Henry Shane provides to kids. Hi, thank you so much. We appreciate you appreciating Henry, because we have appreciated Henry in Jefferson Parish and Kenner and at Discovery for a very, very long time. I too have known Henry north of 40 years, right, Conrad?
You were 12 when you met.
Yes, right. We all have served on a lot of boards together and under the leadership many times of Henry Shane. So we do appreciate you. We do not mind sharing Henry, but we do not want to share him to the degree that we had to share Dr. Brumley and some other people in this room that remain. But we're always willing to do our part, and we appreciate the fact that you do your part as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. That's very kind. Henry, thank you very much, and we just can't say enough about you, so. Okay, next.
Next item is 2.2, consideration of the recognition of Dr. Calvin Mackey. The recommendation is to recognize. Motion.
At this time, I'd like to recognize President Morris.
Motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion. Ms. Champagne, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Mackey, if you could, please step forward. I'd like to recognize you and your contributions as well. So I'll step down here and follow my colleagues' format here.
It's on, but it's not working. Yeah.
So members, good morning. You've heard me so many times express the feedback I receive from students when I substitute teach, and the plea that I get consistently is, Mr. Morris, can you guys make education relevant? And that's what Dr. Mackey's done. He came to Bessie a year ago with Pepper, if you recall, and we got some appreciation for the technology that's available to our students today, thanks to Dr. Mackey and the outreach that he's made across the globe to bring technology like this to students in Louisiana. So want to take this opportunity today to recognize Dr. Mackey, his special talents that he brings to our state. So bear with me as I read through his brief resume. So Dr. Calvin Mackey is an award-winning mentor, inventor, author, former engineering professor, internationally renowned speaker, and successful entrepreneur. He's the founder and chief executive officer of STEM NOLA, the premier national STEM program that designs and delivers activities, programs, and events to K-12 students, families, and communities. Dr. Mackey is a dedicated advocate for STEM education and works tirelessly to inspire the next generation of innovators, creators, and entrepreneurs across America. Engage with them and expose them to quality learning experiences that prepare them for exciting career opportunities in STEM-related fields. In 11 years, STEM NOLA has engaged over 200,000, mostly low-income, low-resource K-12 students in hands-on project-based STEM activities across the country. Dr. Mackey graduated from Morehouse College, earning a BS in mathematics in 1990, and was simultaneously awarded a BS in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, where he subsequently earned his master's and PhD in mechanical engineering in 1996. He served on the engineering faculty at Tulane University for 12 years. Mackey has won numerous awards, including the 2003 Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering, mentoring in a White House ceremony, and currently serves on the Louisiana Law STEM Advisory Council. Dr. Mackey received the 2019 Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Board's Chair Phoenix Award, the highest honor presented by CBCF. It recognizes individuals whose extraordinary achievements strengthen communities and improve the lives of individuals and families nationally and globally. Most recently, Dr. Mackey was selected as one of 24 recipients of the National Eric and Wendy Schmidt Awards for Excellence in Science Communications, given by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine in partnership with Schmidt Futures. The award recognizes people who've made significant contributions to promoting and advancing science education and communication. His inspirational memoir, A View from the Roof, Lessons for Life and Business, has been adopted as educational course material by numerous secondary and college teachers throughout the country. His latest book, Grandma's Hands, Cherished Moments of Faith and Wisdom, was published in 2012 and received a silver medal in the prestigious Living Now Book Awards. Dr. Mackey is a regular contributor to Forbes.com, writing about public engagement in STEM. Dr. Mackey is a devoted husband to his wife Tracy and father to his two sons, Miles Ahmad and Mason Emir. Thank you, Dr. Mackey.
First, to the entire Betsy board, I'd like to say thank you, President Morris. Thank you for pushing the envelope to make sure that our children receive the relevant education that they need. To Discovery School and to Shane, congratulations to you all. It's ironic, you know, we partner with Discovery School and bring STEM with Mr. Watson down to Discovery. But Caleb, the young man that they was talking about, is actually friends with our son who's at Yale also. And to Dr. Brumley, both of our sons went to Jefferson Parish Schools when you were superintendents, and both of our sons now are pursuing, one is pursuing an engineering degree at Howard. He's going to graduate in a month. Another one is pursuing an economics and data science degree at Yale. And I say that to put a pin in, in the ground about the quality of education that's happening in the state of Louisiana. In 2003, I received the Presidential Award from George Bush as an individual. When I left the White House, I left that White House knowing that I could mentor 50 kids at a time. I challenged myself saying, can we mentor an entire city? And for the last 20 years, my wife and I have been working together, and Tracy is here, to build this model called STEM NOLA that we're now scaling across the country. And last year alone, we engaged 41,000 kids across the country, 31,000 in the state of Louisiana, in 14 states and 36 cities. We are convinced that we have a model that can bring STEM to every kid, not only in the state of Louisiana, but in this country. And I'm willing to work with anybody that would help us put this model across the state of Louisiana so that we can put STEM in the hands of all our kids, such that before they get to school, it's demystified, and they help the teachers better with their pedagogy when they engage the kids who already have an understanding of the world before them. So I would just like to say thank you all for the recognition.
Let me recognize Dr. Clark for a moment. She has something to say.
Thank you for just being a great family of people and a great person in our state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Appel, one comment. I had the unfortunate privilege at a Jefferson Parish graduation. I don't know if you know where I'm going. So at a Jefferson Parish graduation, the featured speaker for the students was one Dr. Calvin Mackey, who, as a individual who tries to be a good Baptist boy, understands fire and brimstone preaching. Dr. Mackey brought that to the crowd, and then one superintendent had to follow said speaker and the shoes were mighty large, and I don't think I met the mark. But Dr. Mackey is also a great public speaker and inspirational in the words that he brings to students. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey.
Okay, next item.
Your consent agenda is ready for approval, adding items 5.1 through 5.2 and 5.4 through 5.5, and pulling items 3.3 and 5.3.
We have a motion. Mr. Harris moves, Mr. Hollis seconds. Any objection? No objection, the motion stands. Next.
Your next item is on page 27, item 3.3, consideration of requests from LEAs for waivers of policy contained in bulletins submitted by the State Superintendent of Education. The updated recommendation is to delete from the agenda.
Okay, do we have a motion? Mr. Harris, Mr. Hollis seconds. Any comments you want to make? Comment?
Yeah, just briefly, had conversations with the repeat superintendent around this issue. They believe that they have resolved the class size issues that would have required Bessie to take action. I was not prepared to recommend to the board some of the requests that had been made. And I think the superintendent there in Rapides was in agreement with that, and they were able to resolve those issues. And so we just need to pull the request from the agenda.
Any objection to that motion? No objection, the motion passes. Next.
Your next item is on page 31, item 4.1, consideration of the Education Recovery Scorecard. The recommendation is to receive.
We have a motion from Ms. Champagne and Ms. Holloway seconds. Any
Yes, sir.
discussions?
Yes. So most recently, in a collaborative effort between universities Stanford and Harvard, they have put out a report relative to the recovery of student learning from the global pandemic. Several of you, Mr. Morris, Mr. Castile, Ms. Holloway, served on the previous Bessie, and you can appreciate many of the tough decisions we had to make during that period of time. And I think history will show that we made the right calls. And certainly this board today has been helpful in continuing to accelerate that work. But I'm asking Dr. Chasson, our Deputy Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and in my humble opinion, the best in the country, to make this particular presentation.
Please.
Thank you, Dr. Brumley. Good morning, everyone. Jenna
Wait, can-
Chasson, Department of Education. We would just wanted to take a few minutes today to share some highlights from the recently released Education Recovery Scorecard. And just a few notes that this update is really a celebration for Louisiana educators who have embraced our comprehensive literacy and math strategies. Several years ago, we knew that what we were doing was not fully working for all of our students, and this state really looked to embrace change in classroom instruction. And I think this update today shares that we've done that throughout the pandemic. When Dr. Brumley entered his position nearly 5 years ago, he had a very clear vision for how to improve both reading and math instruction, and it's been an honor to support implementation of that vision. As he said, this scorecard is a collaboration between Harvard and Stanford, and researchers there used a methodology that uses data, compilation of both state assessments and NAEP to then compute this scorecard, which has both district and state level reports that are available online on their website, as well as a full report that outlines the methodology that was used. It's an annual report, and this is the third iteration of that report that outlines the recovery in both reading and math at the district and state level. A few things to note about our Louisiana results is that, yet again, Louisiana ranked first among states in reading recovery and second in math recovery between 2019 and 2024. Louisiana students also progressed in reading and math at a time when many states did not. They fell further behind throughout the pandemic and in the aftermath, and Louisiana students saw gains. My favorite quote from our state level report of the scorecard is this last bullet here. The average student in Louisiana has completed their recovery from the pandemic in reading and math. We are very proud as an agency. It's been a huge lift for us to manage, allocate, support with resources the pandemic funding over the last several years. It's really been a whole department effort, and we're really proud about the sustainable efforts that we've put in place to improve classroom instruction through the use of this funding, and that is noted in the report as well, that Louisiana's investment of the pandemic funding did contribute to the academic recovery of our students. They noted this was especially true for the use of funds and things like summer learning and tutoring. A final note from the report is that there has been growth in chronic absenteeism in our state. And because of this, not all districts are improving at the same rate. There's also a great case study that's available that specifically calls out Natchitoches Parish and some of the wonderful work that they've done around reading and math tied to the Education Recovery Scorecard. But until every student in our state can read and do math on grade level, we know that we have so much more work to do. But we do know that what we are doing is working. That concludes this update.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments? No one? Just one question. Based upon this hard work that you're describing and the success we've had, can we expect that to contribute, that work process to contribute to the further growth in our scores and our success rate with the kids?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had so much focus the last several years on those entry grade levels, on kindergarten through third grade level. And I think we'll see over time as those students matriculate upwards, we'll see their progress be made even further. That back to the basics approach of really relying so heavily on mastery of foundational skills in math and reading is so important. And we've put a lot of funding, a lot of efforts, a lot of our training there at those grade levels, and I think we'll see the benefits of that.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. All right, next item. Oh, did we?
Any objections?
Any objection to the motion? There's no objections, the motion passes.
Next item is on page 34, item 4.2, consideration of 2024 Louisiana results for the nation's report card. The recommendation is to receive.
Ms. Champagne and Ms. Holloway.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator Appel. I wanted to take a moment this morning to share information relative to the nation's report card. Unfortunately, when we made our press release and we were on a specific timeline to do that event, because of dual commitments from Bessie members, not every Bessie member was able to attend that event. And so we wanted to spend some time today highlighting that. And also recognizing some of the teachers from across the state of Louisiana who are the reason that we are seeing this academic growth. And so I'll make a few remarks, share some information, and then I have an opportunity where we will announce a teacher from every Bessie district. We'll ask them to come to the front. And we'll ask each Bessie member that represents that particular region to go stand alongside their teacher, along with some of our amazing nation report card charts, and we'll take a few photos. And no worries, Senator Appel and Ms. Champagne and Dr. Armstrong, we have a teacher for you as well, so that you can be involved in this as well. So hopefully our screens will work for this particular presentation. So the nation's report card. The nation's report card is the gold standard assessment in the country. It is the only assessment that measures U.S. students across the entire nation on a standardized single instrument. The latest results measure 4th and 8th grade reading and math, and all 50 states must participate as a condition of receiving federal funding, including Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, and the Department of Defense. We call that out because on some of the slides that we've previously shared, it shows a Louisiana state ranking of 51 or 52, and some people might assume that, well, no wonder you're 51 or 52 if you don't know that there are only 50 states. But the reason is because D.C. has included Puerto Rico and the DOD schools. It's administered every 2 years. The next slide shows Louisiana's ranking since 2013. Bessie members, because the screens in front of us continue to go out, you may have to turn to the screen behind you. But Louisiana's national ranking since 2013, you can see that in all content areas we have improved. So you see essentially a steady line between 2013 to 2017, slight uptick there, 2019, and then significant uptick from that point forward. When we look specifically at 4th grade reading and a national ranking since 2013, you see we've moved from 48th in the country in 2013, then went to 50th in the country in 2017, 50th in the country in 2019, made progress to 42nd, and then in 2024 all the way up to 16th in the country. That's not just growth, that's absolute performance. So absolute performance, Louisiana students are 16th in the country. And I'll note that for 2 consecutive NAEP cycles, so over 4 years, on both of those cycles, Louisiana's 4th graders led the entire country in reading growth. So 2 times in a row there. When we look at 4th grade math, we also see that in 2013 we were ranked 50th, dropped down in 2017 to 52nd, 2019 50th, and then we started to make progress moving to 44, and then now at 38. And we'll note that Louisiana is in the top 5 in the country for 4th grade math work, and we're excited about continuing to accelerate with our math refresh as we move forward. Looking at 8th grade reading, you'll see in 2013, 49th, 2015, 49th, 2017, 49th, 2019, 45th, moving to 39th in 2022, and ultimately in the 20s now in 8th grade reading at 29th. I agree with Dr. Chasson and her earlier comments that as our elementary students matriculate through the system in their middle years, with them having a stronger foundation, these 8th grade results also should improve. When we look at 8th grade math, you see 2013, Louisiana's ranked 48th, 2015, 50th, 2017, 51st, 2019, 49th, 2022, 45, 2024, our highest ranking there is 43. and Louisiana is one of only 14 states to actually post an improvement in 8th grade math. Now, when we look at absolute scores or our scale scores, that gets a little more in the weeds. You can see in fourth grade math scale scores from 2022 even to 2024, you see 229 to 235, which is a significant, very significant scale score difference. And likewise for math, and likewise if you look at reading, you see a continuous improvement from 210 all the way up to 216, so also a significant improvement. 8th grade results, when we look at the scale scores, we don't see the improvements that we see with 4th grade, but again, I'd go back to a couple things. One, as students get the foundational skills that they need, we think that these scores will go up, but also these particular students were the students that were most impacted by the pandemic. And so you see that if we look at math, 2022 to 2024, one uptick of a scale score, still slightly down from that 2019 number. And if you look at reading, you see just a consistent line at that 257 scale score. So clearly we have work to do there in the middle grades. If we look at growth among students with disabilities, I am really excited about this work. And I'm thankful for the work that's happening with our students with disabilities in schools across Louisiana, as well as educators. This shows the growth among students with disabilities. So if you look across 4th grade math, 4th grade reading, 8th grade math, and 8th grade reading, you see the difference that is shown between Louisiana students and students across the nation. While students across the nation with disabilities are losing ground, students in Louisiana with disabilities are gaining ground. So the work that we're doing in the special education space is working. If we look at scale scores for students with disabilities, this also shows the progress. But beyond progress, it shows absolute performance and signals and clarifies that students in Louisiana, students with disabilities in Louisiana, are outperforming the national average for like students with disabilities. So again, Louisiana students with disabilities outperforming the national average. If we look at growth among economically disadvantaged students, you see basically the same pattern. You see across the country a decline, but you see in Louisiana growth in 4th grade and really holding status in 8th grade. So we're, again, thankful for that growth in that 4th grade, lower elementary space. If we look at economically disadvantaged scale scores, you see that Louisiana is above the rest of the country for serving students that are economically disadvantaged. Our absolute performance with students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds outperforms the country. So that signifies that a student from an economically disadvantaged family is getting a stronger education in the state of Louisiana than the national average. And finally, if we look at progress on the nation's report card of combining the 4 content areas together, in 2013 we were 49th, 2015 47th, 2017 51st, 2019 49th, 2022 43, and in 2024 our highest ranking in history, which is 32nd in the country on the nation's report card. So that deserves a round of applause. I think it's really important that we recognize educators because anytime I'm asked about this, I always lead with the fact that this is not possible without the amazing work taking place in schools across the state of Louisiana. You know, we pull policy levers here. We try to align the financial resources that we have here to the things that are most important. We try to utilize our conversations in communities to push forward change, and that's all important. But again, outside the parent or guardian, there's nothing more important than a teacher to a child's academic performance. And so we wanted to recognize a group of teachers here today and just say thanks to you. I mean, you're representing the entire workforce in the state of Louisiana here today. I'd love to have all 50,000 of our teachers in the room, but the fire marshal may not agree. We're blessed to have you all. And what we're going to do at this point, I'm going to get some help from our team. We're going to call your name, and we would ask the corresponding Bessie member to also come forward, take a snapshot down below. And teachers, I'm going to give you one of our very cool Department of Education Challenge coins, which is a recognition of the work that you've done, but also challenge you to take us to even greater heights in a place that we've never been before. So, John, if you'd mind helping me at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Brumley. My name is Joni Lacey, and I serve here at the department on the School System Relations team. I am grateful to have the opportunity to introduce today some incredible teachers doing really impactful work. And we'll start with Bessie Region number 1, and we'll invite up Kara Beth Milton. Beth teaches elementary math, science, and social studies in St. Tammany Parish. Next, from Region 2, we'd like to call up Shanette Barnes. Shanette is a middle school ELA teacher and also works as an interventionist at her school in St. Charles Parish. Dr. Sharon Clark. Next, from Region 3, we'd like to invite Jennifer Kidd. Jennifer is from Iberia Parish and teaches 8th grade ELA. And this is Miss Sandy Holloway's region. Next, from Region 4, we'd like to invite Miss Nicole Weatherford. Nicole teaches 4th grade and 5th grade math and science in Vernon Parish. And this is Miss Stacy Millery's Bessie region. Next, from Region 5, we'd like to invite Miss Lauren Groh. Lauren teaches 8th grade math and ELA. She also serves on the Superintendent's Teacher Advisory Council. And this is in Mr. Lance Harris's Bessie region. From Bessie Region 6, we'd like to invite Miss Sandra Say Fukuto. Sandra has served on the Let Teachers Teach work group. She is an elementary teacher from the Zachary Community School District. And this is in Mr. Ronnie Morris's Bessie region. From Bessie Region 7, we'd like to invite Miss Caroline Gaspard. Caroline teaches 8th grade ELA in Vermilion Parish, and this is in Mr. Kevin Birkin's Bessie region. Next up, from Bessie Region 8, we'd like to invite Miss Amber LaCour. Amber teaches 8th grade math in East Baton Rouge Parish, and this is in Mr. Preston Castille's Bessie Region. Now moving to our at-large Bessie Regions, starting with Mr. Zachary Barton. Zachary is a middle school math teacher from St. Charles Parish, and we'd like to invite up Mr. Conrad Abel. Next, we'd like to invite Lindsay Duvall. Lindsay teaches elementary school at the Diocese of Baton Rouge, and we'd like to invite Dr. Judy Armstrong. And now we'd like to invite Brittany Abear. Brittany is an 8th grade ELA teacher from Lafayette, and we'd like to invite Ms. Simone Champagne.
So we won't continue to move forward taking the easy road. You know, there are tough decisions that always have to be made. There are long hours that have to be worked. At the same time, I'm very optimistic that we can continue to make progress for kids and families and teachers and the state as a whole. And I'm honored to work alongside each one of you. And thank you for giving of your time today to be here. Mr. Appel, that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming. It was great to see you. These numbers are staggeringly positive, and we couldn't do it without you, so thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a great week.
Any objections? Any objections?
Oh, we have a motion. Do we have any objection to the motion? No objection, the motion stands.
Your next item is on page 37, item 4.3, consideration of an update report regarding high school opportunities and key performance indicators. The recommendation is to receive.
Motion by Mr. Harris and second by Mr. Hollis. Do we have, who's going to handle that one? Oh, here she comes.
Okay, so as I've stated many times, I think we have an opportunity and obligation to reframe the high school experience. It's not going to take schools working in isolation to make these changes. We need business and industry partnerships with schools. We need community colleges and four-year institutions partnering with schools. And this is a big lift. And no one has ever indicated that this was anything other than a challenge for us and school systems in the state of Louisiana. But I believe in us, and I think we can do it, and I think we can position students graduating from Louisiana high schools to be ready for their next opportunity, and I think we can improve their standard of living, and I think we can improve the economy as a whole. And so much of that work, I think, happens in high schools across the state of Louisiana. I've appreciated some of the work happening in our high schools very early on with the shift to go ahead and begin making those changes and absorbing the information. Most recently, we held our Fast Forward conference, and we had over 700 educators there in Lafayette to share best practices on how to move forward. So at this point, Dr. Singleton, if you don't mind, lead us on this presentation around high school endeavors.
Thank you. Good morning. Ernie Singleton, Assistant Superintendent, Career and College Readiness. This presentation will provide an update on the following key performance indicator. Increase the percentage of graduates that are college, career, or service ready as measured by the Acceleration Index by 15 percentage points. Louisiana's school performance is determined with this easy-to-read scorecard. Calculating the school or district score is simple. Just average the indicators together. Key performance indicators are measurable values that help track progress toward strategic goals and assess progress over time. This month's KPI tracks the progress of students earning high-quality career credentials, essential for thriving students accelerating into college coursework, career training, or service from 2020 to 2028. Today, we are going to focus on students earning high-quality career credentials of the Acceleration Index. Every KPI is driven by key endeavors that are fundamental to achieving the annual goal, students earning high-quality credentials. For the 24-25 school year, students earning high-quality credentials require implementation of 3 key endeavors. School districts engage in planning, alignment with workforce demand, and action plan development. The first key endeavor, school districts engage in planning, involves providing targeted technical assistance to school systems. The initial consultation via Zoom is 60 minutes. During this time, school systems are engaged with LDOE on identifying their current state, where they are now, and their future state of providing opportunities for students to earn high-quality credentials aligned to the workforce demands of the region. 17 school systems were identified. We targeted large systems in both North and South Louisiana, rural systems, both mid-size and small, 2 in the North, 2 in the South, and we also targeted small and mid-sized school systems without rural designations. The LDOE team has participated in this particular endeavor with 12 of those systems. They have completed the onboarding process. The total amount of students in those 17 systems is just under 100,000. This first key endeavor is represented on the graph with the teal bar at 59%. The 59% represents the number of students in those 17 school systems engaged in planning. At this time, LDOE has impacted 59% of those 100,000 students through technical assistance provided to the school system. Once a school system has completed the planning phase, the LDOE team then convenes an in-person intensive technical assistance meeting. During this collaboration, the school system identifies 3 to 4 goals and any risk, what may cause the system to not achieve the goal, constraints, what barriers that may exist, or dependencies associated with the goals. Again, 59% of the 17 school systems represented by the dark blue bar has completed this portion. After the intensive technical assistance, an action plan is developed. The action plan has action items, milestones, timelines, and metrics for the school system. 6 action plans out of 17 has been developed, which is represented by the orange bar at 21%. Once the school system has the action plan, they enter the support cycle and would engage in quarterly check-ins to ascertain how the action plan is being implemented. Moving forward into 25-26, an additional 17 school systems will be identified to go through this process. Additionally, LDOE has built guidance for school systems to do this on their own, should they desire to do so. Building quality CTE programs document provides detailed steps to support the build-out and enhancement of exceptional CTE programming. Additionally, we have guidance on building quality work-based learning programs, a step-by-step guide to providing detailed tools to create, strengthen, and expand work-based learning programs tailored to the workforce needs of the local community. By participating in guided technical assistance or utilizing self-guided technical assistance available on the LDOE website, school systems have the tools to create programming to meet the needs of students as well as the workforce demand in their community. This will increase the percentage of students thriving in our accountability system and our local communities across the state. Thank you.
Okay, we have any further? President
Thank you,
Morris.
Mr. Chair. Dr. Singleton, I just wanted to thank you and your team, Jessica Valalungo, just the tremendous effort you guys are making in this space. And I wanted to share a personal experience. Last week I interviewed, I wanted to give a shout out to the CTEC team at EBR. Last week I interviewed 3 students there in the nursing program as part of my doctorate at Vanderbilt University. And I was just very, very impressed with the responses I got from the 3 female students. They came from very challenging backgrounds, all 3 of them, but they were very excited that in 1 year they're going to graduate, or in May they're going to graduate from high school and then attending Baton Rouge Community College for 1 year, they get their LPN. So they've got their CNA, they're very proud of that, and they're looking forward. You know, they have a bright future, promising future ahead of them. They were all just very excited about it, very thankful for the staff and support they received at the CTEC. So just a really good example that I got from my personal experience. Just wanted to share that with you guys, and again, thank you for your work.
Did you want to say something? Oh, I thought you were looking at me. You smiling? Okay, anybody else? All righty, thank you. Do we have any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. Thank you. Next item.
Your next item is on page 43, item 4.4, consideration of the TOPS University course requirements regarding equivalency courses for art. The recommendation is to approve.
Ms. Champagne moves, and Ms. Holloway seconds. Who wants to present?
Do we have public comment? Yeah, so this particular item has to do with courses that are acceptable for the TOPS pathway. And we had heard from the field that creative writing should be considered as an art form. And so we've tossed this around with regents and others and feel comfortable making that recommendation to allow creative writing to serve as an equivalent there on the TOPS track.
Anybody on the board want to say anything? We have one public comment. Allison Campbell, you want to come up? While she's coming down, you want to say something? While she's coming down, let me just add a little something that Superintendent Brumley and I talked about on the phone. You know, I came from the business world, and one of the greatest problems as a business person that I ever encountered was hiring people that could write a simple request, a statement, just anything that made sense. And I know this is a little bit above what I'm talking about, but I can't be more than complimentary on the effort to enhance the ability of American students to write, because it's awful. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say that creative writing actually does go a long way towards helping students to write. Something that I spoke with Dr. Singleton about this morning is just that I teach high school creative writing, and I teach in New Orleans, and students come from other schools to the high school. They join at high school level, and often if they had gaps in their ELA classes, when they enter the creative writing classroom and they get that ability to express themselves, it gives them confidence in their ability to write, and then that helps them to improve their expressions when they move into the ELA classes. So it's not only important so that they have a vehicle for expression, but also it serves as a really important bridge for students who may lack some proficiency in the formal English department. So just wanted to add that.
Well, I think that's great, and I appreciate you bringing this. Do we have any objections to the motion? No objections, no comments. The motion stands adopted. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item.
Your next item is on page 44, item 4.5, consideration of an update report regarding the Louisiana Educational Assessment Program. The recommendation is to receive. Updated backup has been distributed.
Mr. Harris moves, Mr. Hollis seconds.
Yes, sir.
You want to present?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, count me in the number that believe that Louisiana students spend too much time testing. I've been pretty clear about that, but I've also been very clear that I believe that assessments are very important. We need to know where students are academically to help drive instructional decisions and policy decisions. At the same time, I think that we should be evaluating the quantity of assessments that we are requiring of students in classrooms across the state. As I've said, I think that we have to be surgical in reductions, not just to reduce, but to make sure the assessments that we are providing are as high quality as they can possibly be. So we just wanted to come today with the next iteration of reductions. You may recall a few months ago we announced that for some of the LEAP tests for this upcoming year, we've been able to reduce them for this year by about 25 to 30%. We were able to do that in consultation with our psychometricians, and we were able to reduce the amount of actual questions that students have to answer, but at the same time still have confidence in the validity and reliability of the testing. So we did that 25 to 30% reduction for this year, but we're thinking about what does this look like? What is further reduction moving forward that makes sense? And so what I want to share with you today is our approach moving forward to reduce some of our social studies assessments moving into the future. So starting in the 27-28 school year, the LDOE will continue efforts to reduce testing time by decreasing the number of required social studies assessments. You know, I'm a former U.S. history and civics teacher, so I'm a little partial to social studies education, and I think it's important to know where students are. So moving into 27-28, social studies assessments will only be administered in grades 3, 5, 8, and ensuring that students take a high school civics test as well. You may be asking right now why those grades. We'll get to that momentarily. But under the Every Student Succeeds Act or federal law ESSA, states are not required to administer a single social studies exam as part of their state's testing program. And currently, Louisiana is one of 13 states that require social studies testing in grades 3 through 8, and Louisiana is the only state in the country that requires all grades in 3 through 8 to participate in social studies testing annually. So across the entire country, Louisiana is the only state right now that requires every year a social studies assessment in every grade level. So by making this particular reduction in grades 3 through 8, we're looking at an approximate, basically slicing in half the amount of time that students are taking on assessment. So right now, that's about 1,100 minutes over grades 3 through 8 in social studies test. Moving forward in grades 3 through 8, that'll be about 550 minutes approximately. Now, I mentioned earlier that I would explain why grades 3, 5, and 8 make sense and why we selected those grades. And the reason for that is it aligns to the Freedom Framework for Social Studies Education that we passed. Grades K through 3 are studying what's called the American story. So grades K through 3 are looking at the papers, the places, the people that have been most significant in the struggles and the sacrifices of America. So at the end of grade 3, those students would take an assessment on what they have learned over that K-3 experience. Then in grades 4 and 5, under our framework now, students engage in world history. So they're looking at events over the course of the entire globe, dating back all the way into prehistory. And so at the end of grade 5, they would take a world history assessment. And then now, with the changes that we've made, which have been implemented in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th, we begin with 1776 in the 6th grade and pre-1776, and we take it all the way to the historic election of Barack Obama in 2008. We divide those into thirds, and so the students study that in chronological order beginning in 6th grade. So in 6th grade, they begin with pre-1776 activities, and they move through 2008 as an 8th grader with Louisiana history incorporated in there as appropriate. And so what we would be moving to is at the end of that module, that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade module, students would take a leap in grade 8. And so by doing this, we feel like, you know, we are honoring the standards that we have set forth of what we want students to know and be able to do. And also we are able to reduce testing fairly significantly in schools. And so we just wanted to share that information. We do have the next slide we'll hold before going to the next slide. But I just wanted at this point to see if there are any questions relative to this particular social studies testing reduction. Okay. So we're excited about that reduction, and also we wanted to just give the board and public a brief update on LEAP moving forward and what that timeline looks like for those shifts. And I've asked Assistant Superintendent Thomas Lambert to come to the table to make this particular presentation.
Thanks so much, Superintendent Brumley. Thomas Lambert, Department of Education. So we are currently in our writing and planning process for the LEAP RFP, which we plan to release during the summer of this year. That will be our advertisement period, and fall through summer of 2026 will be our evaluation period, contract negotiations, and OSP review, with a plan of having new administration of assessment programs in the 27-28 school year. We are giving ourselves a great deal of time inside of this to ensure that we have a contract in place and an amount of time that's appropriate if there's a transition of vendors to make sure that we can continue to do standardized testing in our state. So you might be looking at this going, you're starting in 25 to get something in 27, 28, and the answer is that could be aggressive, but we're giving ourselves time in there in case it is an aggressive timeline because we have hiccups or issues within the procurement process. You may remember the K-3 literacy screener took us a few years to get that finally through all of the processes through the Office of State Procurement. So we've given ourselves a good amount of wiggle room in there in the event there is a problem. So we will have new assessments administered in this 27-28 school year on this timeline.
President Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lambert, can you help us out with your timeline? Help us to identify the milestones here for Bessie engagement. When you guys would be coming back to us with some sort of update or asking us to help with some sort of decision. Can you help us with that level of detail?
We would certainly provide an update around that advertisement period timeline, an update that the RFP is indeed out there. We would provide updates throughout that process as we can. The Office of State Procurement does restrict what we are able to and not able to say during a procurement period. We would anticipate that a contract is coming to Bessie at some point in the fall of 2026 for final approval, as is standard with most contracts.
What about helping us to appreciate what the options are with regard to either continuing with the existing LEAP test, modifying the existing LEAP test, or going to something entirely different. Can you help us with some appreciation for what options you're considering? And then obviously, response to your RFP relative to those three options.
One of the things I'll just jump in before Mr. Lambert is in offering Mr. Morris to you and the leadership of this board. We can engage in conversation around what that engagement might look like, what a timeline might look like. That way, it's not just the department saying, hey, we'll come back here and there, but we can make sure that in working with leadership of the board that we have a timeline of engagement that makes sense to the board.
I'll add anything else that the superintendent would like me to, otherwise I think you covered that.
Okay. Dr. Armstrong?
So, in our conversation the other day, I just want to make sure that, I'm clear. Right now, our contract with our vendor, twofold question. They provide 40 to 50% of our LEAP test items, and the department and content teachers work on the others, as well as the alignment of whatever LEAP test we have with our curriculum standards. Am I correct?
Mostly, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So we have an assessment administration contract with one vendor. We have a content contract with the same vendor who has a subcontract for leasing some items from another vendor. So we have a fairly complex set of contracts there. The leasing of items, I estimate we lease about 50% of our items, and then we contract for the writing of, and in-house members of our team work on writing items. But all of those items, any item that goes in front of a student in the state of Louisiana is reviewed by a Louisiana educator to ensure that it's appropriate, to ensure that it meets the standards, to ensure that it's what they would expect their young person to do in their classroom, that's grade level appropriate and meeting the standards.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have that alignment.
President Morris?
Yeah, just one more. Just want to make sure, Mr. Lambert, obviously very important topic here. So we should appreciate some sort of update, ballpark me, fall of this year. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, at this time, Michael Falk from the School Board Association, Superintendent's Association wishes to speak. And Tommy Byler from the Superintendent's Association does not wish to speak, but is in support of the recommendation.
Michael Falk, Executive Director of the Louisiana Association School Superintendent. Just want to make sure that the requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act are followed with this contract. We want to make sure that we're doing the best, getting the best service that we can for this important area.
Mr. Falk, I thought you were coming to the table to thank me for reducing testing.
That's what Mr. Byler did, but we do appreciate the effort. We do appreciate the consideration. And we know and you know there's other areas we can continue to work on to let our teachers teach.
Yes, sir. You're right. And the behemoth that is the testing regime is something that we are scrutinizing and making sure that we can ensure valid and reliable assessments, but also make sure that kids aren't spending too much time doing that because we want more time instructing and less time testing. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, any objection to the motion? There's no objections, the motion stands adopted. Next item.
Your next item is on page 49, item 5.3, consideration of an update report regarding the English Language Arts and Mathematics Content Standards Review Committee. The recommendation is to receive the report and approve the membership selection for the committees as outlined.
Okay, Mr. Harris moves, Mr. Hollis seconds.
Thank you. So as Dr. Chasson comes to the table, I want to take a moment and thank Mr. Lambert and the Accountability Assessment Analytics team for all the work that they do. So much technical work where, a mistake just isn't allowed. And just want to say thanks for that, Thomas. And at this point, Dr. Chasson, you're up.
Thank you, Jenna Chasson, Department of Education. Today I am bringing to you all the next step of our standards review process. So far, you as a board have directed us as the Department of Education to begin our review process of the English Language Arts and Mathematics standards, and you've approved the overall process. Today is the next step where we will ask you to approve committee membership. Just a little bit of history and background as a reminder. That Bessie does have to direct the department to conduct a review, which you all did several months ago, as is stated in Bulletin 741. And we put in front of you a few months ago as well our standards review goals for both ELA and math. And in ELA, these committee goals, the committee will work to follow these goals around strengthening the foundational skills standards progression to ensure alignment to the science of reading, reinforce a specific measurable language standards progression, including grammar, mechanics, and usage in grades 9-12, and provide World, American, and Louisiana exemplars of text. In math, the committee will work to strengthen foundational skills standards progression to ensure the development of advanced skills, including logic and reasoning, and identify pathways of relevant mathematics for students in grade 9-12 aimed at success in college, career, or service. This slide shows the structure of the review committees. There is a 15-member steering committee that guides the process and provides updates. The content area work group consists of experts with on each specific content area. So there is a K-12 ELA work group and a K-12 math work group of these experts. You can see here the 15-member steering committee will be composed of members from each of the 2 proposed content work groups. And the steering committee will work to guide the process, assure that the content updates from the work group align to Bessie's review goals, and receive and review public comments. The 2 content work groups will be established to maximize the efficiency of the writing process and to center discussions in each content area. The work groups will make content standards that align both vertically and horizontally. As each content area progresses in their work, their steering committee representatives will present the outcomes to the entire steering committee through a process of strategic collaboration. So just a few notes about the application and scoring process that we have gone through to make it to this point. We released the ELA and Math Standards Review Committee application on December 11th, and it needed to be open for about a month. We left it open a little longer because of the holidays, so it closed on January 27th. We advertised this through various communication structures like our newsletter, monthly calls, social media, and the application reached educators, system and school leaders across the state, in addition to members of higher education and the community. We received a total of 675 applications. And from these applications, 48 individuals were selected for the committees. Applications were scored using a blind scoring process across multiple teams, and individuals with preference points were given to those individuals who have teaching experience, content expertise, and experience serving on education committees. After reviewing total scores, additional consideration was given for geographic location and demographic information. Within each category of membership, the highest scoring applicants were selected to serve and are being presented here today for consideration and approval. And so these are the selected members of our K-12 ELA Standards Review Committee. For those with a star, an asterisk behind their name, that indicates that they would also be serving on the steering committee. And here are the individuals selected for the K-12 Math Standards Review Committee. Again, that asterisk indicates that they would also serve on the steering committee that would convene. This was a rigorous review process. obviously with nearly 700 applications. So we really do want to congratulate those individuals who are selected to represent their organizations, their schools, their communities, and to lend their voice to this really important process for our state.
Any questions? Ms. Holloway?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chasson, Dr. Chasson. Could you possibly forward us the content area these teachers are in and also the district they represent, their location? Because it doesn't give any information here of where they're from.
We can provide that information.
Thank you.
President Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Dr. Chason, just really impressed with the response here. Over 600 applicants, from what I understand. Just very impressive response. I also wanted to thank you and your team for the choice of vocabulary on slide 3. Could you go to slide 3 for the benefit of members? So I wanted to acknowledge my colleague, Senator Appel. First of all, several months ago, he suggested that we include logic in your first bullet under mathematics. Just beyond the basic curriculum, want to make sure that the students appreciate the application there. And I wanted to take this opportunity in public just to go a little bit beyond that. Superintendent Brumley and I have had a number of conversations here. I'm certainly no standards expert. But when I look back to our cover page on our handout and I look at the Bessie mission statement, and we're charged with creating policies that advance Louisiana in an increasingly competitive global market. So how do we do that? Well, we go to your first bullet in mathematics and we talk about those advanced skills that do include logic and reasoning. But on your second bullet, it says identify relevant, emphasize relevant, mathematics pathways, another huge word in our conversation, for students in grades 9 through 12 aiming for success in college, career, or service. So when I think about that success and I think about relevance in conversations that I have with students and how you make education relevant, I really appreciate consideration for these committees to consider the logic, but also the applications for the mathematical concepts. How do I use this in the real world? So I'm interested in those conversations about the applications, and then I'd like to take it one step further, and that is how those applications potentially apply to career pathways. So there's a lot of conversation about work-based learning right now. I think it's a great opportunity to tie those two together. And then additionally, I think Louisiana is pretty much on the cutting edge nationally with regard to K-12 education and AI and the AI conversation. And if we don't include artificial intelligence applications here as well, I don't think it has to be for every single standard, but I do think that our students need exposure to the artificial intelligence conversation, as well as the career pathways and as well as the practical applications for the curriculum. So I don't know how you integrate these concepts into the standards, but my question is, if you don't, then how do our students get this level of engagement? How do they appreciate the applications? How do they appreciate the career pathways? And then how do they get into that AI conversation beyond what they're getting from their peers and their own trial and error? Dr. Brumley and I have discussed, and he's given me, guidance that, these concepts can be included in the guidelines, which I appreciate. But I just want to go public on record that I think is very important, whichever process the department brings forward and this committee brings back to Bessie, that the applications, the career pathways, and the AI applications are things that we should be considering. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I would just like to also echo, the thank you that necessarily while the how may necessarily be in the works particularly, unfortunately I'm not very versed in standards either because I'm, typically on the receiving end as a student. I would say that it's definitely great to see this sort of effort, because I think, those STEM, English and math is very important and, not to I guess, defer, you know, your science and social studies classes. But I'd say that, you know, for me as a senior, you know, going into college, like, I think that those English and math classes are definitely the most crucial to me to set the foundation of everything else, you know, I hope to achieve and so on. So I think, yeah, I just really like to, I guess, echo that thank you. Like I was saying, so really have that, you know, I guess, the word I'm looking for is like, progress. Yeah, I agree that when I was reading through this slide, I also took a lot of, yeah, effect to like the verbiage used. I really appreciate, I know I spoke before one time about like the practical application that is kind of mentioned here, that it's just the idea that I'd say a lot of my peers are just of the opinion that like, if it doesn't really apply to me, then, you know, why do I need to learn about it? Why do I need to invest the time into it? So I think, you know, seeing this many people on committees and hearing so many that applied is something that's really exciting to see that, you know, these adults that like come from all over are going to be able to really narrow in on, you know, like kids need to learn about this, about topics like AI and, you know, such that are a lot more pressing than something we may have seen in, you know, previous decades to, you know, different generations particularly. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'd just like to put in simple terms what I believe the significance of standards review and adoption of new standards is, and that is the world changes rapidly. I participated in adoption of standards back in like about 10 years ago. Things have changed so much in 10 years. We didn't know about AI. We hardly knew about computers. The world changes. We have to be ahead of the game all the time so that and we have this kind of bureaucratic process under which we adopt these things, and it takes time. History, science, mathematics, every form of learning is changing rapidly. So not only do we have to adopt standards that are appropriate for 2025, they need to be appropriate for 2035 almost. So to me, the significance of what we're doing is being ready for the future, that we don't fall behind, because other countries are not sleeping. Maybe some of the states are, but we can't be. So I just wanted to close the comments with that looking ahead, forward thinking is super critical in this process. So thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, one other comment. I want to thank the board for recognizing that English and math, or reading and math, are skills of career and college readiness. And you all have been pretty clear that, you know, while credentialing is important, internships and apprenticeships, those are all really important things, and we're trying to get better. I think fundamentally, being able to read and do math, that's career and college readiness. And so I appreciate this board's position on that. And I just want to, as Mr. Morris has called out some of his beliefs about opportunities within the standards, and Senator Appel has, you know, for me in design on the ELA standards, I want to make sure that particularly in those lower grade levels, we have the right approach to the science of reading, and we're honoring that as much as possible. For all the grandmas that give me business about not having enough grammar, we want to make sure we add more grammar into the standards. And then I want kids to experience full novels, some of the great books of Western civilization, and read them in their entirety, not just an excerpt here or there. So, you know, I hope that we can accomplish those things. And on the math side, certainly doing all we can around foundational skills at the early level, building that math fluency, while as we move from very concrete to abstract or conceptual understandings of math, the impact that logic has on that development, and making sure that we're honoring that as well. And so that's, you know, important to me, and I get more excited about this opportunity every day to reframe these standards in a more relevant way. So, Dr. Chasson, thank you for you and your team and the work that you've done, but also challenging you and your team to make sure we get this right moving forward.
Thank you. Okay. Any objection to the motion on the floor? No objection. The motion stands adopted. Next item.
Your next item is on page 63, item 6.1, consideration of revisions to bulletins regarding kindergarten screeners. The recommendation is to approve as a notice of intent revisions to bulletins 118 and 741.
Ms. Holloway moves. Ms. Champagne seconds. Okay.
So, Senator Pell, consistent with our desire to reduce time testing for kids and the amount of time that teachers are having to give assessments, one of the things that we're recommending to do here today is to remove the kindergarten readiness screener. It is certainly something that can provide valuable information, but it takes a pretty significant amount of a teacher's time to administer. Also, one of the things I think that's worth noting is by law, moving forward, starting next year, students in grades K through 3 have to get 3 math screeners annually, and they have to get 3 reading screeners annually, which we think are important. That's going to help us continue to move in the right direction. But the fact that kindergartners will be doing a literacy screener 3 times a year and likewise a math screener, we don't think that the kindergarten readiness screener is something that we need to continue with because we think that we're going to get really good information from those literacy and math screeners. And so we would just recommend that that be removed as a requirement in the state.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? We have Madeline Batson from Louisiana Policy Institute for Children wishes to speak to give information, and Mr. Tommy Byler from the Association of School Superintendents does not wish to speak, but is in support of the recommendation. Good morning.
Good morning. Am I on? Yes. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Madeline Karst-Batson, Director of Policy and Research at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan source of research and data on early childhood education in Louisiana. As you know, ensuring our children are ready to succeed when they enter school is crucial for their long-term educational success. And as a former K-12 teacher myself, who taught nearly 200 children every day, I understand the effort and time it takes to adequately assess and plan interventions for students, particularly at the beginning of the year when we know there is a lot going on. But to truly set up our young children for success, we must recognize that kindergarten readiness is much more than just literacy and numeracy. Children's success in school depends on their development across multiple domains, including behavioral, physical, and cognitive development, in addition to literacy and numeracy. Narrowing our understanding of kindergarten readiness to focus solely on reading and math would be a disservice to our children, their parents, and our educators. Eliminating tools like the Desired Results Developmental Profile for Kindergarten, known as DRDPK, and Teaching Strategies Gold Kindergarten Entry Assessment, known as Gold KEA, would overlook the full spectrum of a child's development and readiness for elementary learning. This would make it difficult for our kindergarten teachers to adequately select the appropriate intervention for their students, as DIBELS and a numeracy screener are not made to take into account, as wonderful as they are, the other factors that may be influencing a child's ability to learn. The DRDPK and Gold KEA screeners help parents have a holistic understanding of the areas in which their child may need more support at home and in the classroom, allowing them to be the best advocate for their child's needs. If this motion passes, we ask that BESI members collaborate with the department to determine how educators can establish a developmental baseline for students in the areas affected by the removal of the DRDPK and Gold KEA screeners. This will help children successfully transition from early childhood education to elementary school and ensure we provide the best support for our students in all aspects of the kindergarten learning environment. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, well, thanks very much. And do we have any objection to the motion? There's no objection. The motion stands adopted. Next.
Next item is on page 66, item 6.2, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 741 non-public, the Louisiana Handbook for Non-Public School Administrators regarding legislative and policy alignment. The recommendation is to approve as a notice of intent revisions to Bulletin 741 non-public.
Okay. Dr. Armstrong moves and Mr. Harris seconds. Do we, let's see, Dr. Brumley?
Yeah, and no presentation other than sharing that we've worked with Dr. Armstrong and the non-public superintendents throughout this process. And I don't want to speak for them, but I feel like they're comfortable with where this is, Dr. Armstrong, so we can move forward.
Okay, any questions or no comments from the audience? So was there any objection to the motion? The motion stands adopted. Next.
Next item is on page 71, item 6.3, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 1530, Louisiana's IEP Handbook for Students with Exceptionalities regarding alternate assessment eligibility criteria. The recommendation is to approve as a notice of intent revisions to Bulletin 1530.
Dr. Armstrong moves. Mr. Perkins seconds. You want to?
No presentation.
No reports, no questions, no comments? Any objection to the motion? The motion stands adopted. I just want you all to note that it's about 10 minutes to 10, so this is we're on world record time here.
It's almost 11. That clock's wrong.
Oh, the clock's wrong?
Yeah.
Is that daylight savings time?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, never mind, skip that.
Your next item is on page 73.
Huh? I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, this is great, we're doing great.
No, it's 10:46.
Okay, next item.
Your next item is on page 73, item 6.4, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 1964, Louisiana Content Standards, Benchmarks, and Grade Level Expectations for Social Studies in response to Presidential Executive Order 14172. The recommendation is to approve as a notice of intent revisions to Bulletin 1964.
Okay, Ms. Champagne moves, Mr. Harris seconds. Any?
Yeah, so, yep, very quickly, just a comment. So on January 20th, 2025, President Donald Trump signed Executive Order 14172, renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Since then, companies like Chevron, Murphy Oil, Shell, Google, Apple, Microsoft have aligned with that executive order. Also, Governor Landry, in his communication, has aligned with that order, as well as state agencies such as Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. For me and for us, the Gulf is a sustaining resource for our coastal communities and the state at large, supplying both energy and fuel and food across the globe. To align with President Trump's executive order and to ensure academic standards align, we recommend striking the name Mexico and replacing with America in reference to the Gulf in Louisiana standards for social studies education. She's doubling down.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? None? I think I'll stick with calling it the Gulf, because the next Democratic president will probably change it back. But anyway, any objections to the motion? No objections heard. The motion stands adopted. Next item.
Your next item is on page 78, item 7.1, consideration of the recognition of Mr. Blake Grabert, 2024-2025 Student Representative for the Bessie Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee, and introduction of Ms. Beja Lopez Morgan, 2025-2026 Student Representative. The recommendation is to recognize and introduce.
Okay, and Mr. Harris moves, Mr. Hollis seconds, and I just want to say, I can't believe it's been a year already. That's amazing. Y'all want to
Ms. Holloway?
speak? Ms. Holloway?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's appropriate.
Thank you. I am so privileged today to recognize Blake as a student rep from Lafourche Central High School. And by the way, did you notice he's coming with his attire from Central Lafourche High School? It's green. Yes, green and gold. You look great. Thank you. But I'd like to thank you, Ms. Mathern and Ms. Groh, for your efforts and your passion for this and bringing Blake each time. Thank you for that and for your teaching efforts with our students. And I cannot go without noticing. First, I'll recognize Blake's dad, Mr. Grabert. Please stand. Thank you. Such a wonderful, wonderful man. And the best Oh, let me just hold on to that. One of the best, outstanding teachers, Miss Elise. Please stand. She's one of my former teachers, and she's still in the school system. Thank you for that. I remember when she was pregnant for Blake, and here he is sitting next to me. Thank you. I appreciate you and being great parents. Commend you for that. I do want to say, besides being an incredible asset on Bessie, Blake is quite involved at his school. He is a student council rep. He's on the tennis team. He's on the National Honor Society club, student council, band, etc. And as you heard him today, this is what I told him before. I said, you need to consider education law because he speaks well. He's very direct. He understands some of this process as a student. And so his endeavor is to attend LSU in pre-law. So we're hoping, because he would be such an asset to our educational system. And we thank you. We wish you the best. Thank you.
On behalf of the board, we do thank you, and I just want to compliment you. And I've never met a young man so poised and not afraid to stick his nose in when he thought it was appropriate. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. And we appreciate you being here. And thank to your parents for seeing that you can get here. And good luck. I'm sorry to see that you want to go to law school because we got way too many lawyers, way too many. We need some more engineers. But anyway, good luck and congratulations.
Blake,
Thank you.
I'd like to make an offer to you. You're attending LSU, correct? If you're looking for a paid internship, there is this outstanding agency called the Louisiana Department of Education, and we'd be honored to have you on our team. So just connect with our Chief of Staff, Ken Bradford, and we'd absolutely love to continue to shepherd and also learn from you. So thank you.
Take a picture.
You have something to say?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, thank y'all so very much. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, it's really exciting. Like, as a student that was just kind of plucked out of a classroom and, to be able to sit and come once every month and, act like I know what's going on to really see, so many people that work so hard for me and all the other students across the state, every single day. Like I said, it's something really exciting to know that, even we face various issues and, complications, problems, obstacles, whatever you want to clarify it as particularly, but it's exciting to see that there's, so many of you obviously that work so hard to, really nib these in the bud and just really be able to, support all of us. So it's really, exciting as a student to see that there's people that, truly care for us every day, besides when we're just sitting in a classroom on a Tuesday at, 11:30 and, just kind of enjoy the ride. So thank you very much. Thank you.
before we move forward. So, Blake, I want you to look to the back. Mr. Bradford, wave your hand. That's Ken Bradford. That's who you need to connect with about your internship opportunity. So just make sure y'all make that connection.
And Blake, I think you have one more duty.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So with my time on the board as a student rep coming to an end, it is my pleasure to introduce our new student rep that me and Miss Paulette Campbell, who was our organizer here today, were able to interview and select at our annual LASC convention that was held in the middle of January. So as of about a month, our new student representative here is Miss Beja Lopes-Morgan. Yes, and before she begins, I'd just like to say we really got someone good coming in that I'm really excited to be able to have her, take my place and continue to have an outstanding passion for education and a student come through to this board. I was really blown away that I was able to sit in on the interviews of our other candidates, and Beja was really just all for it. She was really excited, very knowledgeable, and very passionate above all about education. That I feel like is something really exciting to see, in other students, maybe just beyond me or a few other peers that I see, but to have someone who is from, kind of another part of the state to just really go for it and be so absolutely passionate. So, Beja.
Thank you so much, Blake. Hi, everyone. My name is Beja Lopes-Morgan. I'm a junior at Mandeville High School in St. Tammany Parish. And before I start, I just want to give a big thank you to Blake. Blake has really been such an inspiration and role model for me. He's helped me in all parts of the process, from interviewing to meeting people at LASC where I was selected. And I just really look up to Blake, and I wish him well at LSU. I know he's going to do great. So, like I said, my name is Beja Lopes-Morgan. I'm a junior at Mandeville High School, and I'm proud to be in St. Tammany Parish. I've been in the Louisiana public school system since kindergarten, and I've had a really phenomenal experience. Every day, I used to come home from school and say, "Mom and Dad, guess what I learned at school today?" And that intellectual curiosity and joy of learning that I've had has continued with me today. I really became interested in education and policy because I want to help other kids experience the joy that I feel from school. At my high school, I'm student body president, and I also represent Congressional District 1 on the Louisiana Legislative Youth Advisory Council, where I work to promote civic engagement and education. I'm extremely excited for this duty, and it is a true honor to have been selected to represent the voices of all Louisiana students. I'm very excited to work with all of you this year, and I can't wait to see all that we'll accomplish. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you, Blake.
Well, all I can say is you have big shoes to fill, but I think after hearing that we won't have any problem with the transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any objection? Any objection?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any objections to the motion? No objections. The motion stands adopted.
All right, that concludes your agenda.
Thank you. It's still 10 o'clock.